Hello, everyone, and welcome to our last session of the day of the Mortgage Administrator online event. I hope you found today's sessions as informative as I have. My name is Anna Sagar, Deputy Editor for Mortgage Solutions and Editor for Specialist Lending Solutions. So to round up today, we have a fireside chat between Rob Barnard, Relationship Director for Pepper Money, and Luke Syms, Training and Quality Supervisor for Case Management at Connect for Intermediaries, talking about the importance of wellbeing in achieving sustained performance and positive outcomes. I'm really looking forward to this session. And on that note, over to you both. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Anna. Good afternoon, everyone. And firstly, a big thank you from me for simply staying with us and sticking at it after lunch. I'm delighted to welcome you all to this final session of today's Mortgage Administrator online event, which I hope really that you've found to be beneficial and educational and, of course, enjoyable. As Anna said, I'm Rob Barnard, Intermediary Relationship Director at Pepper Money. And for this final session, I'm delighted to be joined by Luke Syms, Training and Quality Supervisor at Connect Mortgages. Luke joined Connect straight from education and has spent several years really all around the business in the various business support functions. And so he's got a wealth of experience right across administration as a whole. Luke, I'm absolutely delighted that you found time to join me for this afternoon session.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, great. I mean, our session today will delve into many areas of the administrator function. And at the end of the event, if, of course, we've done our jobs properly, you should be able to understand how you can use effective strategies and systems designed to mitigate common challenges faced by mortgage administrators. You should be able to examine the significance of workplace wellbeing initiatives in maintaining job satisfaction whilst managing stress and promoting sustainable performance. And, of course, understand a little bit more of Pepper's support mechanisms for brokers and administrators alike. I mean, and just to keep you on your toes this afternoon, we want to make the session just a little bit interactive. And there will be a series of polls popping up on your screen during the session. Now, don't think too hard about the answers. Just give us an honest opinion, and we'll see how your answers compare with the rest of the audience as we go along. So it'd be really great if you just take the time to join in on those. That would be great. So before we get into the nitty-gritty of areas such as fraud, consumer duty, and the like, let's get to know just a little bit more about Luke. So come on, Luke, what do you enjoy most about your role as an administrator?
Well, there's a lot. I mean, you can start things essentially from the client journey, especially particularly first-time buyers, families, well, looking to start a family, move out, find their first home. There's a lot of satisfaction in getting those kind of cases over the line. But besides that, you've got things that come across like challenges where you've got difficult cases, whether it be income, adverse, difficult properties. So there's a lot of challenges, and getting those over the line and finding resolutions for those challenges. Those are sort of things that give a lot of satisfaction with the job, really. I think one of the most important things in the administration within the mortgage industry is you get involved in a lot. You're involved in the administration side, you get involved in, to an extent, things in terms of the advice side of things, valuations, solicitors, legals. So there's so much within the administration that you get involved in. You build a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience. So it's definitely a good one. Anyone starting out, it's definitely a good place to start.
It sounds like no 2 days are ever the same, mate. So that's really, really good. I mean, thinking about you as an administrator and working with lenders and relationships, what challenges do you currently face, and what do you think probably we need to see improving a little bit on that lender administrator broker relationship?
Yeah, I think one quite a big one is having, which I know Pepper Money do quite well, is having direct access to the lenders, specifically the underwriters. So there's, especially when you've got your more sophisticated, more complicated cases that need that phone call with the underwriter to directly have a little chat through rather than emails back and forward. Because sometimes you're going to get a case where it's just it's not your bog standard, not your typical straightforward first time buyer employed case. So it requires that relationship and that direct communication with the underwriters, just to be able to, even if it's just a 5-minute conversation, be able to have that conversation. That's it. Cases come in. You've had your chat. That's it. It's offer checks. There's all sorts of challenges, but I think quite one of the most important ones is having that direct access and that communication with lenders.
And don't give too much away, because we'll come on to that again in a little while, because it's something I feel passionate about, and I want to examine that a little bit in a bit more detail shortly. What characteristics do you think make a really good, top-notch, standout administrator?
There's quite a lot in there. I suppose you could start with things just as simple as diary management, being able to manage your workloads, because you've got, I suppose, you're going to have work coming from all sorts of angles, emails, phone calls, messages, your CRMs, even things in person, having lenders come visit in person. So being able to group all of that together, keep it in one streamlined place so everyone's treated fairly. Some cases aren't prioritised over others unless absolutely necessary. So being able to, diary management, being able to work your diary, prioritise your workloads efficiently. I think that's quite a big one. Knowledge as well, having knowledge of mortgages, the industry is quite a good one. But again, like I touched on a minute ago, it's you get involved in so much of the knowledge can be easily built in administration. So it's not required. It's good to have. Of course, it's good to have. But where you get involved in so much of the process, so many different areas, it's always great to have. Well, to be in that administration role.
No, I think it's the lifeblood of our industry, and I think it gets undersold. So we're Pepper and absolutely massively behind the administration role. So it's great. And I think one of the biggest challenges you have is managing upwards and downwards, because you're managing your brokers, organising them, and then managing their customers. So it's a real skill, I think, to be able to manage upwards and downwards at the same time. I mean, administration as a whole from my mind, is a great starting point in our industry. And many administrators come in with a view to maybe moving on to advice at some stage and becoming advisors themselves. Or some actually want to make a career out of administration. Now, without giving too many secrets away and handing your resignation into Connect as we're doing it, where do you see your career panning out? You've seen it all over the last sort of 5 or 6 years while you've been at Connect. Where do you see your career developing?
It's a big open door, really. Exactly like I say, where you get involved in so much, there's a lot that me personally, I still would like to look into, all sorts of different areas of the business at Connect, or even further outside, even if we're talking things like underwriting at one of the lenders. I mean, personally, I've got my CMAP 1 qualification, currently studying for CMAP 2 and 3. So chances are I probably will dive into the advice side of things. Have a little look into that, see if that's something I enjoy, something I want to pursue. Maybe something good. It may not. I may decide to come back to more of a management side of things. I sound crazy for saying it, but I could even end up having a little dive into the compliance side of things, really. Having a little
study.
But yeah, there's a lot of doors. I haven't got exactly a clear path just yet, but being in the administrator role with everything that's involved, there's a lot. There's a lot involved. If I find something I enjoy, that's it. I'll have a little look into it. If I don't like it, then there's all sorts of other areas that can be explored.
It is, and I think getting your CMAP, I think, is vital. And I've got my CMAP. It's quite old and dusty now because of that age. But I'm a big believer, administrators, BDMs, we should all be qualified to CMAP, because at the end of the day, we're dealing with customers exactly the same as you and your brokers are. I mean, we've seen so many changes over time, haven't we? The challenges of mortgage administration process and function, I think, is pivotal to ensure that our customers fulfil their mortgage ambitions. I mean, at Pepper, it genuinely is more than just words. We understand the person behind numbers. Our aim is simply to make administrators be more you. It's a phrase we use a lot, to make sure your life and work balance is kept in real perspective. We want to support you and make the process more seamless and transparent. And we genuinely understand the emotional investment of both you and, most importantly, your customers. And we don't want to let any of you down. So I want to touch there on our first poll question of the session, if we may. So this will pop up in your screens very shortly. If you just give us an honest answer. And this is about processing times. In the last 12 months, which types of cases have taken the longest to process? And you'll see a sort of range of answers there. So while our audience is looking at that, can I sort of ask you a question around it? I mean, in recent years, we've seen many changes in the industry. Do you think cases today are processed quickly still, or have you seen processing times increase? And if so, what are the sort of common hurdles and challenges that you're coming across, and what can be improved?
Yeah, I mean, I think even now there's still a lot of up and down. The market's changing so rapidly that people are having to adapt quickly. But I mean, since COVID, especially with things like rate increases, especially for your top lenders that are going to be receiving hundreds, if not possibly thousands of applications on the days or a couple of days before rate pulls, those have obviously had a knock-on impact on lender SLAs. But it's been the same situation for the last, we're talking 4 or 5 years or so. So I think everyone, lenders, brokers, administrators, have all had essentially no choice but to adapt and be able to work towards meeting SLAs, whether that be increased staffing numbers, better resources. So I think, yeah, it's been a lot of up and down, but I think slowly everyone involved in the entire process has slowly become to adapt to it and been able to manage those sorts of service levels and meet the requirements and expectations needed.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I know there's been a session on this earlier, but I think the importance of getting that submission right the first time round. Don't just, from my point of view, from a lender perspective, don't just sort of drip things in. Make sure you've got everything, because I think if you submit everything in a single transaction, you'll get a much more consistent and timely response than if you are dripping them in. Because often, if you send one piece of post in, for example, you'll get more questions on that.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see really how processing has changed a little bit as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. Exactly as you say. I think one thing that is quite helpful in the entire mortgage process, the client journey, is, well, one, starting with the lenders to make sure their initial assessment, they come out with absolutely everything they need. Of course, you're going to get your cases whereby they're going to fall a bit out of bed, and then you're like, okay, after the first set of initial documents uploaded, information provided, you're still going to have questions, further requirements come off the back of it. That's the job, essentially. But as long as lenders on their side can work to get in absolutely everything they need, request that from day one, and then for the sakes of us brokers and administrators, we can then do the same. Don't drip feed things through. So all that's going to do essentially is cause further delays, further problems. Get everything together, get it all over in one nice sweet go, and then fingers crossed, the ideal outcome would be you would do that, and then that's it. The lender will check it, tick, tick, tick in every single box, and then the case can go over for offer.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, obviously from Pepper, I'm a specialist lender through and through, and it's interesting to see that from our first poll, the sort of category of cases that seem to be taking longer are specialist mortgages. And I talk about this all the time. I don't think it needs to be. I think yes, some specialist lenders will ask for more information because we're making a decision based on the information you provide us. But 38% of our audience today have said that specialist mortgages maybe take that little bit longer. So that's a concern a little bit. And I think that's more that lenders like us can do to try and make sure that we're working and educating with you to sort of make sure that we keep those turnaround times on track. Second to that is buy to let. So two of the areas that are right at the sweet spot of specialist lending. So I think that's something we as lenders need to take on board and work on and educate and make sure that we're giving you that message at every opportunity. I mean, one of the key challenges over recent times, I think you must have been faced with in administration, is rate changes. I mean, both in frequency and speed. I mean, turn the clock back to the back end of 2022, it was a nightmare, wasn't it? And I don't know how you kept up with it. And I think we're also maybe seeing a little bit of customers hanging off at the minute to see if they expect rates to actually reduce maybe later in the year. Yeah. I mean, this must be causing you as an administrator an absolute major headache. How do these such events impact your day job? And have you had to change your approach to sort of adapt to it?
Yeah, no, 100%. There's definitely been a large element of having to adapt, because essentially rate pull cases for your clients, as far as they're concerned, they need to take priority, even if it's a case of possibly getting the application in, getting the fees paid, so the rates locked in, and then maybe coming back an hour or so later to then deal with the documents, whatever it is. They take priority. So you are always finding yourself focusing on those, which could lead you to then fall back behind on your other work, whether it's document uploads, offer chasing, dealing with solicitors, whatever it is. So yeah, especially rate changes specifically, they have had quite a large impact, and brokers, administrators, everyone alike has needed to step up, put processes in place to account for it. I mean, essentially within Connect ourselves, we've had to change a few processes, and we've even got a dedicated team now that will, when we get our emails come out for lenders advising us of rate pulls, it will go to that team first. They'll check the system for all affected cases, and then it will go out to the case managers accordingly to then prioritize what's required within their workloads and their diary.
And I think we're still seeing them. They're not as ferocious and as quick as they were, but we are still seeing these rate changes. And I think one thing that probably came out of the post-fiscal statement announcement is I think lenders did learn a little bit. We try and give you more notice now to actually get a decision in principle, and then to convert that decision in principle to a full application. I still think there's work to do for us all, but at Pepper we'll always try and give you 48 hours, which hopefully gives you that opportunity to sort of package the case up properly and give your clients an opportunity not to miss that rate that they've been sort of sold only the previous morning. Because it's not just about the rate that changes, it can be affordability as well. So I get it. It's an absolute nightmare. Time for the second poll of today. So this is looking at sort of mental health, mental well-being, and sort of work-life balance. So the next question will pop up shortly. How frequently do you work overtime, which is at least 30 minutes, to ensure that you complete your daily tasks? And that must be a nightmare. I don't think there's anything anything like a normal working day anymore. I mean, the importance of mortgage administration, I think, is still paramount with the introduction of consumer duty. And I think with the introduction of consumer duty, it's probably even caused more requirements for you. There's often more packaging requirements now. Yeah. In many instances, I think administrators are the unsung heroes of the application process, often responsible for getting that case finally over the line. And they play an integral part in ensuring that home buyers and indeed remortgage customers secure the funds in a timely manner. I mean, these situations often come down to small details, and good administration and administrators are the masters of those details, but it can often lead to long and stressful hours. So undoubtedly, work-life balance, Luke, is something that must be a real challenge. Do you find yourself working outside standard business hours? And if so, how important is it that you do retain that great home life balance? And how do you manage to do it, mate?
Very important. I'd say that without a doubt. It is very important. Me personally, I've found myself maybe not so much anymore, purely because I've made a conscious effort to not be working too much overtime, whether it be staying late at work, taking my laptop home, taking the work home with me. But you really do need to have that switch off. There's only so many hours in a day. Whatever you haven't managed to get done, there's always tomorrow. It's a case, I mean, personally, we've had a lot of changes within our team over the last 6 months or so. We've essentially got a brand new team. So for me personally, there's been a lot of training needs across that team, which has meant I'm focusing on that, getting the team up to speed where we need to be, which has then maybe left my day-to-day tasks a bit behind. So then I've had to do things, take the laptop home with me, catch up on those in the evening. But then that just essentially the trouble is with that, then that has a knock-on effect. You're taking them stresses and the work home with you, which ideally in an ideal world you don't want to be doing. You want to have that switch off. 5 o'clock, go home. That's it. Have your dinner, enjoy your evening, come back again in the morning at 9 o'clock. So it's I would say there's a large element of prioritizing your work during the working hours. Try your best not to take that work home and those stresses home with you. Do what you can during the working day, and tomorrow's a new day.
Yeah, and I think this sort of hybrid working from home type of stuff can often cause a problem on that. I mean, I work from home when I'm not in the office or when I'm not out seeing brokers and distributors, and it's so simple to come back into the room where I work when you're on the way upstairs, when you go to the loo, or you go to bed, to end up sitting at your desk for a little while. We've got the results in, and again, it shows that there is a big drain here on people's. On 19% of all our recipients said they have to do more than half an hour every day, which I think is scary. 19% do it 1 day a week, and it really is balanced across the piece. I think the important thing is just think about yourselves, just give yourself that work-life balance. We'll be here tomorrow, and I know it's difficult, but if you are struggling a little bit, shout for help. Shouting for help and managing workload isn't a weakness, guys. It just helps. So just have a think about that and just make sure that you're not sort of taking on more than you can chew. We get it. We understand it. Talk to people about it, but just don't accept it, I think, is the key thing.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I suppose just to add to that, yeah, it's definitely utilize the resources you've got around you. You've got colleagues, your seniors. If you are struggling and you've got too much work on your hands, let's say, which is mean you're falling behind and you are having to take that work home, don't just keep it to yourself. Don't mask it. Get it done. Work a couple of hours in the evening. Speak to your seniors. Speak to your colleagues. See if anyone could give you a lending hand, just to take that stress off. You're all in the game together, essentially. You're not on your own. Everyone's in the same boat. So to work together, you're a team at the end of the day. You and your colleagues, you're all in the same boat. So all work together to help each other out. So.
And we're not literally talking this afternoon to sort of half a dozen people. There are hundreds of people on this call, and so that's a big representation, isn't it? Where sort of 19% of people are having to do that every day. So I think let's just all be conscious of it. A problem shared can be a problem halved and all that sort of stuff, but just try and just take a sensible approach. Make sure you do allow yourself time. I mean, for example, one-to-ones, conversations now, try not to do them behind Teams. I'll go back to the old-fashioned telephone and go for a walk. Just sort of stimulate your mind a little bit by getting away from your desk. And I think that's really important. I mean, we could talk all afternoon. I think there's some really good topics here, but time is getting a little tight. So I'm going to move us on to our final poll question of the afternoon. And we touched on this one a little bit earlier, Luke. So the question to you guys is, how would you describe the level of access you have with lenders? How would you describe the level of access you have with lenders? I mean, Pepper, you touched on it earlier, Luke. We do give direct access to brokers and administrators to talk to our underwriters. And I'm a big believer in, if you've got direct access to an underwriter, it's the best 2-minute conversation you will have in that entire mortgage application process. Because at the end of the conversation, the case is either dead and you move on, or you know exactly what you need to get that case over the line. I mean, how valuable do you think it is to be able to pick up a phone and speak to somebody that's actually going to sign that case off?
100%. I couldn't put it into words how important I think personally that is. Being able to have that conversation. I mean, I'll give an example. I had a case the other day where the client's deposit was a bit not quite straightforward. There was all elements of gifted funds, money coming from overseas, multiple different bank accounts. And I had a back and forth with the lender, just notes, emails, back and forth. And it was just a case, it wasn't getting anywhere. A simple situation of picking up the phone, being able to speak to the under directly, get a clear picture from their side of things, exactly what they're asking for, being able to go away, organise that, collect it together, and then being able to pass back, and you know that you've ticked every one of those boxes, rather than spending. I think I had to get BDMs involved and ended up losing a few days. But exactly as you said a minute ago, those few days, because if you could have that conversation with the underwriter, it's either going to be, here's the situation. Yes, we'll take it. Great. We'll move forward. We'll get the case to offer. No, it isn't. Okay, cool. We'll take it away and we'll go and find another lender. And you're saving that time at the end of the day for you to get that case done and off of your desk to an extent, and for the client to give the best outcome for them.
Yeah, and I think if you think about it, I talk about conversation, not credit score, about the proposition we do. And I think if you can have that conversation, I think it can help you. It's great talking to fluffy salespeople like me, but if you've got access to an underwriter, I think that's really interesting. And it ties back into that first poll question where we had approaching 40% of people saying that specialist cases are probably a little bit more challenging. And that sounds like a specialist case that you described when you were setting it. And I'm just looking at the responses here, and we've got 35% of our recipients today saying that they think access should be improved significantly. 45 are saying it should be improved slightly, but we've got sort of 35% saying it should be improved significantly. And I think that's something that lenders could help with. So again, I think if you've got access to underwriters, if you've got access to the right sort of people, it will have a knock-on effect to turnaround times, I think, because you can talk to people and you know exactly what you're getting. So interesting, I think. And just simply, that's the last poll of the day. So thank you for that. We find that really useful. And I'm sure the guys at Mortgage Solutions will be sharing some of those findings, because there's some really good topics in there. I mean, sadly, time is against us, Luke, but thanks so much for joining me today. I'm going to leave the final word to you, apart from Anna when she comes back on. What words of advice would you give to any administrators listening today to make sure that they're making themselves best in class?
Well, there's a fair few points. I mean, push yourself, be one. Put yourself out there. Get yourself involved in experience. I mean, things like this. Get yourself signed up to these things in person. These versions of this in person. Put yourself out there. Gain that knowledge, that experience. Whether it be build relationships with lenders, valuers, solicitors. The more you build those relationships, the more you're going to learn, and the more you're going to be able to push yourself and becoming the best you've got in class. I mean, maintaining a great customer service, that's always going to be one, whether that's the actual customer, or whether that's just whether it's valuers, underwriters, whoever it is. Build those relationships, maintain the top level of service, and you won't go wrong, essentially. I mean, I suppose always look to improve as well. Nobody's perfect. You're never going to be 100% perfect in absolutely everything. There's always going to be something that you can and should improve on. So push yourself. If there's something you don't quite know, something you're not sure of, whether it's a process, a product type, whatever it is, speak to people, boost your knowledge, speak to them, sit down with them, just tell them, I don't quite understand this. Can we have a quick 5-minute chat? And then you're building those skills and that knowledge to become the best version of yourself.
Totally. And I'm still learning. I still love going to watch people presenting. You pick up tips, you pick up hints. There's so much resources available on lenders' websites, and there's so many podcasts available where people can learn a little bit from it. Don't be afraid of pushing yourself. I think that's really, really key. And I just just want to say again, thank you to everybody for listening. I mean, we're preaching to the converted here today because you're on this particular webinar, but let's not underplay. Administrators, I've said it before, are the lifeblood of our industry. You go often unnoticed, but 99% of the time it's you guys that get those applications over the line. So thank you from the lender fraternity for all the work that you guys do. And again, while I'm thanking people, thanks to you, Luke, for joining me. I mean, it's been great to get your thoughts on the shape, size, challenges of today's market. I mean, I hope you found the session useful, not just this one, but all of them today, guys. And of course, hope you found it enjoyable as well. And with that in mind, I'm going to hand back to Anna now for her closing thoughts and any final questions that we may have from the audience.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for that session. Thought it was really, really interesting. So we have some questions, and one of them was talking about, with the mortgage market possibly expecting to rebound a little bit this year once the base rates come down, once the election's all finalised. Does this risk burnout of administrators and brokers and lenders? They had a crazy couple of years with the pandemic and then the mini budget, and what can be done to support them? I suppose there are initiatives like Mortgage Industry Mental Health Charter, which offers some really great resources. But is there anything else? I mean, do you think that this is there's a possible concern there, and what can we do to stop that happening?
I think the Mortgage Industry Mental Health Charter and the work that Jason Berry and the guys do there is absolutely phenomenal. And there's loads of really good resources there about making sure you can enter a safe space. I think sometimes talking to somebody at work probably isn't the right thing because you don't think it's a safe space, but there's people available like the guys at the Mental Health Charter that can help you with that. I mean, I think even though mortgage volumes haven't been where we wanted them to be probably over the last 18 months, people have still been tremendously busy. PTs have been a massive part of the market, and people have been rebroking the same PT several times due to rate changes. So I think we're already working at a capacity. The sort of sentiment suggests that we might have a really good final quarter of the year this year. We might see a couple of changes in the bank base rate that might sort of spur the market on. And I just think we've got to make sure that we all talk to people, share problems, talk to your managers, talk upwards and downwards about making sure that your workloads are fit for what you can do. Because I think if you start slipping in that respect, your work standards go as well. So I think the big thing is talking to people. I think that's vitally important.
Luke, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think Rob summarised it quite well. Having the people there, being able to talk to people, manage any stresses that are coming along is quite a big thing. You can't keep things to yourself. If you keep things to yourself, it's going to bottom up. They're only going to get worse and worse. So I think definitely having things in place like that, without a doubt, is one of the most important things. Being able to talk about it, get it off of your chest, out of your mind, and then being able to move on. So yeah, it's a very important thing, I'd say.
Great. I think I'm going to just look at the questions. When would you think is a good time to take the jump from administrator to broker? Like, is there a set period, like you need to be an administrator for X number of years before you make the jump to broker? It's just a question that's come in now. I mean, I don't know if Luke, if you wanted to take that.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, it's going to be very personal to yourself. Obviously, there's going to be a case if you've come straight into the mortgage industry with no experience or whatever. It may be a year, it may be 2-3 years to help you build up your knowledge. But it's whenever you feel comfortable within yourself that you've gained the relevant knowledge within the mortgage industry, all the aspects of it. I mean, like we said earlier, getting things like your CMAT qualifications done, although you may not need it for unregulated, it is still definitely something useful to have. So, but I'd say it's a very personal thing. It's when you feel comfortable and confident in yourself that you're ready to make that next step.
And I think just because you make the step to become a broker doesn't say goodbye to administration, does it? I mean, I think a recent survey we've done, Anna, suggests that 65% of administrators are actually the broker as well. So there is a massive sort of crossover there on brokers that do their own admin. So I think that's something to sort of work on. It might be the next step. You don't give up administration when you become a broker. But then if you do take both roles, just be careful then that you know when the right time is to maybe take another administrator on. People want to grow the businesses, and it's not always as simple as taking another business writer on. Sometimes there can be a lot more value about taking a power planner or another administrator on to do to do sort of behind the scenes work. So I think
Yeah,
the time of
I think that's
success, the time will be very much down to your own plans.
Yeah, and it's not an either or. And if you actually find out you don't really want to be a broker, you can go back to being an administrator. If you want to blend of the two, like you said, that is always an option. I think that is unfortunately all we have time for on the Q&A side. So it's now time for me to wrap up, and we've had some really fantastic sessions today. We are going to be putting the sessions out on YouTube, and we're also going to be doing some write-ups for Mortgage Solutions as well that will link to those videos, and then also just pull out some key points. And, you know, also using like some of the poll results from this session. So you can, you know, if you did miss any today, then you can go back and have a look. You can share it with people who unfortunately didn't manage to come to this amazing conference today. And there will be a feedback link sent out later today, which you'll need to complete to get your CPD credits. And we'd also just urge you to register for a Mortgage Solutions account. So then you can get all the latest news and analysis and insight from us. And you can also get some more tailored information as well. So it's a really great resource to kind of, as we've mentioned, to upskill, to kind of be aware of industry trends, and to also kind of form a bit of a community, because, you know, there's also, it's a great, you know, obviously I'm biased, but Mortgage Solutions is a good resource to have. So on that note, thank you, Rob, for the great fireside chat today. And thank you to everyone who's attended. And I hope you have a fantastic day. Thank you so much.